Hello and welcome to this edition of Motivation and Money with me, Mark Terrell, and my co-host Fanny Snaith. How are you, Fanny?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. Yep, all good.
Brilliant. We've been comparing notes on our Easter weekends. I went away, went to Dublin and saw a show, which was great. Fanny spent most of her time in the garden and managed not to get sunburned, which is good.
I didn't get some, but no. I'm going out. I'm walking, and so did actually.
Lots of
It was
fresh
a
air.
jam-packed weekend. I was like quite, yeah, full on. Not
Fabulous.
quite as full on as yours going to Dublin though, but that's
Well,
okay.
yes, and there's because of that, I thought I'd share something that happened. It's quite tricky when you go away with people that
Yeah.
you think you know them quite well, but then when it comes to money,
Mm,
distributing money and splitting bills and that, it gets quite
mm.
interesting. And I did share with you, didn't I, Fanny, that we found an app
I'm
that one of the group set up for us, which was a godsend because
I'm actually trying to look for it now.
so it's called SPILD. I'm sure there's other ones out there, or is it SPLID? It's an orange logo.
Splid,
Splid, yeah.
splid.
So when you are spending time with people that you don't spend lots of time with, and obviously friends you do, you go out with the odd meal and stuff. But when you're going to spend extended amount of time with people, then obviously there's things that come up. There's different bills, and we have to pay for taxis and meals and all sorts of odds and sods. And obviously when we were in establishments, we had to eat and drink, which can cause some tricky moments. But because we had the app, it was easy because we knew that whoever was paying, we were just going to put it in the app, split it with whoever they were splitting it with, and it really worked well. So, and Fanny, you mentioned that this was something that comes up quite a lot in your money
Well,
courses and when you're talking to your clients,
it's an example that I
right?
use for a bit of fun, really. Do you ever? Because the thing is, around splitting bills, we all have our little different stories around it. So I don't know if you think like I do, but let's say you haven't got split or whatever it's
Hmm.
called, and you're out in a group of people, and let's say it's quite a sizable group, like 12 people or something like that. When the bill comes, when it's time to get the bill,
Hmm.
every single person round the table is going to have a different kind of take on it, aren't
Hmm.
they? So for me, I go, oh no, it's the bill. Please don't give it to me because people think I'm the money coach. Give the bill to Fanny. She'll sort it out. Right. And I go, and I
Yes.
really, really, especially if I was drinking alcohol, the last thing I want to start doing, because my mental maths is not what it could be. If I'd stopped telling myself how rubbish I was at math many, a good while ago, I'd be brilliant at mental maths. But because I didn't, I'm not. Anyway, so there's going to be, Tracy at the end of the table who's going to be thinking, God, I hope we're not just going to split this because I would never have chosen to come to this restaurant. I can't really afford it. And
Right.
Mark's been down the other end of the table quaffing, expensive bottles of wine, and I've been sitting here drinking my slimy loader or lime and soda as we call it. There's always a different thing. Do you remember the After Eights advert years ago where they're passing around the After Eights on the table, and the lady, I think it's a lady, and she's sitting there and she's going, "Oh look, there's George. He's such does this, da da da," and it goes around the table, and then she goes, "I wonder what they think about me." And then she she
So-
eats this After Eights, and I think it's always the same. You look around the table and you sort of go, "Okay." And they're all sort of thinking, oh, God, how are we doing this? Some people can't give a damn because they've had enough glasses of wine not to worry about it. They'll worry about it tomorrow. But it causes problems, right? Because
Hmm.
it challenges our mental stories that we have in our head around money,
Yeah.
our beliefs, which either serve us or don't. Rarely do we go out for a meal where somebody will say, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll just pay for it all."
We love those sort of friends. Yeah, we're all on the lookout for those sort of friends.
Yeah, it used to be parents, didn't it? But I don't think it's that anymore. But it is interesting because it does challenge. But this looks like I mean, apps are just a godsend when it comes to anything like this. I mean, nowadays we bank with Starling. So let's say, for instance, if you have anybody that's got Starling around the table, and you just hold your phone and you just send the money.
Wow.
You just do
What,
that.
just from the app to app?
Yeah, you just go like
Wow.
that. You go look for somebody around, and then it'll come up and it'll show all the people that have got Starling bank accounts, and you just do that.
Right.
You can send
But
money to them.
what was interesting to me is that there's obviously there was four pet couples, and those that are just always, oh, I'll get this, I'll spend this, and then someone said, oh, you can see the ones that don't mind spending money, and I was thinking it's not that I don't mind. I was always the one that let somebody else pay, and I think, well, I'll settle up. I'm not going to, it's not, I'm not stepping back to try and miss not having to pay. But I just knew as long as someone waved their card at the machine, then it doesn't really matter because it comes up on the in the app, and you can see who's paid, who's in credit, and who's in debit. And I ended up having to
Oh,
pay some money yesterday to balance the books, which is fine. That's how it should work. But other people had paid more, so they were waiting for payment from others to balance the
yeah, yeah,
books.
yeah. But this is it, and this is where it comes to, because not only do you have the stories or whatever's going on when the bill arrives, but you've then got, well, I want to make sure I'm going to get my money from him because he's notorious at, like, he'll just forget.
Yeah.
I remember once here we go, I'm going back, what, 22 years now, and I still remember this story, like, because we don't carry stories with us, do we? No. Um, we lent some money to somebody. Neil and I lent some money before our wedding, and we wanted it back. And he was never going to he was never going to offer it back. It was going to have to be asked for. That was totally clear.
Mm.
And I remember getting on the telephone and saying, I'd really like our money back. And he goes, well, I can't afford to pay you back now because I've just been to New York and bought a load of records. And I was like, yeah, okay. But we have a wedding to organise. But there are some people who just don't want to let their money go,
Mm.
aren't there?
Well, I guess I mean, you know more about this than I do, but so yeah, I mean, there are some people that are always last at the bar and all that sort of stuff,
Hmm.
and you get reputations, I suppose, but it's a tricky one. So I think if you're going to go in a group and whichever way you're going to do it, you need to
I
set
think
some
setting those kind of boundaries is
boundaries.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And especially if you can itemize the bill there. But it's interesting though, because if we're thinking about how we can change and how we can get past these things,
Hmm.
yes, you can go to an app. But it's like when we think about money, money isn't the problem. It's how we can give and how we receive is where we have the problem. It's
Right.
not
Yeah.
it's not the tool, it's how we give it and receive it. So if we're to think about those kind of things, we have to actually go past, okay, so we've got the app, which is sort of like forcing everybody into it. But if you really want to heal something within yourself or look at other people in a different way, etc., you need to sort of go a little bit beyond that and think about, well, what is the problem that I've got with either giving or receiving, or what problem, what's his problem? Or, why do I view his problem as a problem? How am I seeing his problem? Maybe he hasn't got a problem. Maybe it's my problem. Do you know what I mean? Just digging
Mm.
into it a little bit further, and thinking about, um, I mean, maybe there is a belief somewhere along the line with the one with the least money shouldn't have to pay.
Yeah.
There's a
Well,
radical one.
well, that I think that's a fair point because I think when you say to some people, you say, "Well, I can't afford to come out," and they say, "Well, don't put that, make that a barrier. We'll pick up the tab." And
How
these
often does
apps
that happen though?
actually allow that to happen as well because you can actually say, "Look, we understand someone's having a bit of a hard time, but they don't want to. We want them to come out. We want to see them, and if they can't afford to come out, then we'll sub them up, and maybe in the future they might be able to return the favour, but not on any condition that happens. Um, so I suppose it's about making people feel comfortable and not feeling as if you know, they're oh, I can't think of the right word really, but so you don't want people to feel that they have to do something that's outside of what they can afford to do. If you invite them out, you've got to say, well, this is a gift. If you can recompense in the future or return the
Yeah.
favour, then great, but that's not the condition of coming out.
No,
Uh,
but that's very adult. That's very grown up
yeah,
thinking.
is that
Whereas I know,
unusual?
well, I don't know if it's unusual, but I think it's quite grown up thinking.
Hmm.
And I think that there would be many younger people out there who would just go, "Well, if you can't afford to come out, mate, don't bother coming out,
Yeah,
you know." And it's interesting because I mean, um, I've got two teenage daughters, one who works and one who doesn't. And so
mm,
one tends to have money, and the other one, well, the money comes from the bank of mum and dad, although she does work for me and for Neil. So, it's not just money given. But there are two very, very, very different mentalities around it. And this is the thing, and it's like how you think about things and how you're going to place that thought in your memory. So for instance, for the daughter that doesn't work, going out to dinner with her, the first thing she'd be thinking about is the financial aspect of it,
yeah,
which is a shame, really, because she could approach it with, do you know what, guys? I really want to come out with you tonight, but eating at the moment is just a little bit beyond my price, beyond my budget. So I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat before I come out, but I'm going to come out with you guys and I'll have a drink and maybe have some, have a starter or something like
yeah,
that. But the thing is, we don't. We attach all this sort of like, oh, I haven't got any money, or I haven't got this, I haven't got that, and all that. Those kind of stories to it, and those what tend to prevail.
yeah.
I had a phone call once from she wasn't a client actually, but she's somebody I'd been talking to, and she'd gone on holiday with people that they were really good friends with in the UK, and they'd gone abroad. The problem is that the other couple tended to organise the holiday, and they sort of said how much it was and all that kind of stuff, and they could afford the hotel and all the flights and everything. That was okay. But when they got there, they found that they would pick the most expensive restaurants.
Right.
And it was like every time they went out, they just felt like they were hemorrhaging money. But it was normal to the other people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
It's
again, it's having that grown up conversation around what we're going to do with regards to the establishments that we are going to eat at, because it makes a massive difference. I mean, we had one evening where we were a bit disorganised and we end up eating in a hotel foyer. Now, it's not, as you can imagine, it's not the cheapest place to eat, and it's not actually the most comfortable because we couldn't really find anywhere.
and it's
So,
probably
but
not
it's
the best
easy.
food either.
It's again.
It's probably not the best food either.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. We ended up having, well, it wasn't really a meal, really. It was more sort of like a platter. So it's about organising yourself so that you go to places which I think our group was quite, so we were on a sort of, I suppose, very equal playing field with regards to all the couples with similar sort of, I would suggest, financial setups. All self-employed, actually, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we all sort of had a similar idea around what we wanted to do, and nothing was particularly out of our reach. But I think if we sort of go back through what we spent, we could probably have saved money if we'd have been a bit more organised and gone to places and booked places in advance. But you need
So
someone
how
to
do
take
you
the lead with that.
feel? Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about going to a bar, like quite, I suppose, quite a nice bar, and paying 17, 18, 19 quid for a gin and tonic? How do you feel about that?
That's a push for me. I can't see how you can justify that sort of money, to be honest. I don't like
But
gin and tonic that much, so I would,
all right, well, your favourite, or a tenner for a glass of wine,
yeah,
a large glass of wine. What's a large glass of wine? 250 ml? Is that a large glass of wine? I think it
yes,
is,
yeah,
isn't
a
it?
third
Yeah.
of a bottle,
So a third of a bottle, a tenner.
yeah,
I don't know about you, but I just don't really enjoy it. It'd have to be really exceptional company
yeah,
and in a really lovely place to want to do it. But just to go to sort of like a bar on a Saturday night and that's the normal prices, like people going out there and burning two, three, 400 quid.
but that's the key, isn't it? I mean, you can go out and spend, go out for a meal and spend, say £10 a head and think, that was rubbish value for money, or
Yeah.
go away and have spend £50 a head and think that was fantastic value for money, It's
Yeah.
all about the experience, isn't it? Because it's not
Yeah.
just about the food; it's about the way you looked after and the
Yeah.
ambience and all the other things. It's the combination of those things where you think, did I get value for money for what what I've shelled out for?
Yeah.
Was that good value for money? And I get your point with the drinks because sometimes you think, I could go and get 3 bottles at a supermarket for that price.
Yeah.
But it's not about that, is it? Obviously, you're
No.
not in a supermarket. You're in a somewhere
Yes.
where they've got bills to pay. So we have to. You got to. I think it comes down to the fact that are you getting value for money?
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Are you getting value for money? I mean,
yeah,
one of my favourite places in Cheltenham, there's a place called Indian street food place, and you go there, and when you get there, the guy actually just says, you say to him, just bring us some food, and he asks you whether you're vegetarian or whatever, and then he brings you what he believes is going to be the best thing that he can serve that night,
hmm,
and it's not expensive at all, and I mean, it's just you're looked after perfectly, and I always end up leaving the biggest tip that I leave anywhere,
hmm,
I mean, way out of proportion to the bill, and feel so good doing it. Whereas if I go somewhere and I'm charged some ridiculous amount of money for a Coca-Cola,
hmm.
um, I can't. I don't know that. It doesn't sit right with me, and I expect that comes probably going back from looking at my dad, that he would just say it was ridiculous, and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Funny, isn't it? How we sort of
It's
how we
funny, but I think it
all
also comes. I mean, if it's served with a smile and there's a bit extra value attached,
that.
that
Totally.
that takes a lot of the nasty taste out of your mouth if you paid
Yeah.
well over the odds for something. You think, well, it was served in the right way. The the customer service was brilliant. You felt that you actually, they put a smile on your face. There's you know sometimes some of these places you just know that the staff don't really want to be there and they're counting down the time to go home. So
No, exactly.
that's
But
equally.
I've worked with enough people as well who believe that unless somewhere is really posh and expensive, then it's not good.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's what you get used to, I suppose. But I think with these
Which
establishments,
is
it's like
interesting.
some of the what I've noticed over the years is that most establishments are dependent on the people that run them. So taking it back to sort of the leadership around the organisation, what the culture is, and how we do things around here. And you can go to somewhere and you've been there, going there for years and years, and it's go there because it's always great. All of a sudden, you go there and it's
Oh
changed hands. Oh, okay. Oh, it's not quite the same again. Oh, the
no,
prices are about the same, but we don't get those little things anymore, and we don't get
no,
those like chocolates that we used to get, and we don't get that nice waiter who's always asking you about, you know, and all those sort of things disappear, and then you think, oh, well, it's not quite such a draw
not
now.
going to go there
Might
anymore.
not go there quite so often now, and
No.
that's why these pubs that have a great reputation can quite easily lose it, quite quickly, and that's it's all about the
So
people, isn't it?
let's go back to
Money.
sorting things out equally, because that's what we're talking about, aren't we? We're talking about um, because everybody is on a different level when it comes to money. That app is brilliant because it's just straight down the line. You know what you're getting. You set up the. It says, "Do you want to start a new group?" So I'm assuming you set up the group before you go.
Yeah,
So that means see, this is the gem. This is the jewel in the crown. What that app does is it actually creates a conversation so
mm,
that everybody knows where they are
yeah,
before they start. And this is what we don't do when we go into marriages, when we go into jobs and all sorts of things. Actually get the whole set of boundaries completely straight. So
yeah,
this is saying we're going to go to this place, we're going on this trip, we're going to split it equally, we're going to use this app, everybody's name's in there, we'll do this, and then you pay your bit. You can't be clearer than that, can
no,
you?
exactly.
There's no grey area whatsoever. And when you think about every single person who's around that table, everybody's got a different level of wealth. Everybody's got a different level of confidence around their wealth.
Mm,
Everybody's got a different level around how their skills of giving and receiving, and different values.
Mhm.
So setting values like that really, really helps. Having those conversations really, really helps. And this is
Yeah.
the same thing, I think, like when I'm coaching couples, this is one of the biggest things, that they go, how are we going to do our finances? How are we going? What are your values? What do you want in 5 years' time? What do you want to be doing when you're retiring?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of questions, isn't it?
It's
On
important to be on the same page. Like you've talked about that before with your husband, that you set some clear goals and you knew when you were going to reach them, and you had very similar values, I'm guessing. So you're absolutely right, and I think if you can set them out and have those adult conversations around it, then it saves an awful lot of problems down the line, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Uh,
massively,
yeah,
massively saves a lot of
yeah,
problems, because it can be make or break in a relationship, really,
yeah,
for a lot of things, and for friendships.
yeah.
Oh no, Mark's not coming out tonight. He never gets his wallet out. It's just picking on you. But it's there.
well,
You know,
well, I think, I mean, I'm not a big drinker, so I don't drink a lot. But I go out. I don't think I'm going to be. I basically go in with the respect that I'm paying, a half, quarter, or whatever it's going to be. That's the way I operate. I don't
yeah,
think if you go out first of all thinking, oh yeah, but they're always going to be, they're going to be lash on the lash, and I'm just going to be having a couple of pints. If you think that straight away, you're not going to enjoy the evening first of all, and why you got a question
no,
mark where you're actually going to go out with them in the first place. You just got to
mm,
accept it as that's how it is with them, and if you can't,
yeah,
then you shouldn't go.
yeah, exactly, exactly. God, it gets so complicated, doesn't it, with all our little thoughts
Well,
and
it is, but I think these apps are great, and try to take away the ambiguity, so we're clear about how this is going to work. Everything goes on the app, and we split it fairly. And if there's two groups in a taxi, you have the taxi bill goes on there, but you just split it with them, and you could do that with the app as well. So
yeah,
um,
it looks really, really good. I'm
yeah,
actually seeing if there are any other. I don't think there are any other. I can't see any other apps that come up.
really,
There must be some. Usually it shows you apps on here that says there are different, there are apps that do a similar kind of thing.
yeah,
But if they're not coming up. But another app that I also use, that I think is brilliant for couples, on having transparency of money, because yeah, you don't really want to necessarily go straight into a joint account first of all,
hmm.
if you're just getting together and you haven't really had that financial conversation. But there is a way of doing it on your household bills, and that's using Money Dashboard. Have you ever used that?
Yes, I have come across that actually. Yeah, it's been a while ago. But I've never really used it, but someone suggested it, and I look at it, and so yeah, I can sort of vaguely remember that it was looked quite useful. Yeah.
I mean, it's an app I couldn't. I'm not going to say I couldn't live without it, because obviously I could, but it's a really important part of my looking after my finances with my husband, because
Mm.
we can both log in and see what's happening with our joint account and the other accounts that we use
Hmm.
for our finances, rather than us both just going out and sort of spending and then looking at the end of the month and going, what happened?
Yeah, yeah,
We can actually see as the month goes through. And it's also a really nice way of being able to look and see what's going on if you don't get on with your partner so well when it comes to finances. Because let's face it, it usually tends to be one of the partner tends to do more of the finances and the other one doesn't.
mm,
That's generally how it goes.
yeah,
And if the one who doesn't do it tends to get a little bit embarrassed or a little bit insecure about it, or doesn't have the confidence, then Money Dashboard's brilliant, because you can just sort of go and have a little look
yeah.
and see what's going on
There's all
behind the
these real
scenes.
time things that you can do now, even with business accounts. You can have real time information now, which is
Oh,
a godsend. If you're not working on real time data, then you really need to look at how you're
I,
operating. Because,
I mean, when we're talking about motivation and
mm,
money, I
mm,
can't actually imagine what it would be like now to be running my business from an Excel spreadsheet
no,
and having to do everything as past history. Can you imagine?
no.
So for those, and I know there are still plenty of people who are living on an Excel spreadsheet
Well,
who
they
will
say the
be,
cost. I mean, it comes back down to, well, they've got to pay to use the software, and they think it's complicated to set up. I don't think it's. I don't see that it's complicated to set up, but I think there's a cost and they think about,
Oh,
well, yeah,
okay.
it's 20-30 pound a month, and that's
Well,
£300
you see,
a
depends
year.
what you use.
But
And
it's the
this is the
time it
thing.
saves.
Yeah, but the thing is, and this is the thing that actually, this is sort of moving into a bit of a different area. But
Mm.
when we're talking about programs like Zero or QuickBooks and things like that, you don't. If you're a small business, you don't have to use that. I've been using something. It's very, very, very. I don't know why more people don't use it. It's called QuickFile.
Ah.
I've been using it now for at least 10, 12 years,
Hmm.
something like that. And it does everything that a small business needs to do, VAT, all that kind of everything. And it's £72 a year,
Wow.
including a bank feed.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's just a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
I
That's
wouldn't
worth checking
necessarily
out, isn't it?
I wouldn't go for a free one.
No.
I think I'd go for a paid one, but it's really, and the support's fantastic. I've asked loads of questions on it, and it's absolutely
The bank
brilliant.
feed is what saves the time, because you haven't got to keep,
Bank, oh, yeah,
everything appears and you can see where the money's come from that feed, and you can just
oh my
allocate it
goodness.
as to what it was. So yeah, absolutely.
I remember running Neil's business as a plumber heating engineer all on Excel and just having to punch in, create the invoice on Word, translate the information from there onto an Excel spreadsheet. Then when just send an email with the invoice or print it off and give it to Neil to give them. They come back with a
Yeah.
check. I mean, nowadays, let's face it, you can just create the invoice, press send, and it's done.
Yeah, we had a
You
plumber
diverted
around
it.
a couple of weeks ago, and obviously we had the bills emailed within about 30 minutes of him being here. So
Yeah,
well on track. He's obviously got it on his phone on an app, and punched in what he'd just done, and then emailed it. Jobs are good, and so
yeah.
anyway.
It helps. And asking for money, I think it makes it a whole lot easier sometimes.
Mm,
For if you've got one of those little sum up machines,
yeah,
which I have somewhere, and you can just say, "Oh, that'll be that, please," and just boop, it's all done.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, boundaries and money. I think that app is a really good idea. I think there are ones for students as well, because obviously that must be really good. But they're all just swapping money backwards and forwards. My daughters,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
literally just,
yeah, yeah. It's
and
the
they're quite
cashless
keen on
society
it.
we're moving towards.
Yeah,
So sadly, I'm afraid that the 30 minutes has gone by, even though we started a bit late. There's a few technical issues, but
yeah.
we made it. And yeah, so have you got much in the pipeline this week, Fanny, if I can speak?
I've got my group call tonight where we're talking about stories and how what the stories that we tell ourselves around money are probably the most important thing
Hmm.
on creating the life that you want, and why you are how you are, looking at the stories. So trying to work out how we can work out what exactly those are and then change them going forward if they don't serve you. So that's all going to be good fun. Yeah, I mean, I've got all sorts of things coming up. Got few new clients coming on board. Then, yeah, all good stuff.
Fabulous. I've got lots of motivational debriefs going up this week. That seems to be the order of the day. And I finally launched my Motivated Business Club. So you might see some of that coming out in the near
Excellent,
future.
well done.
There is a landing
Excellent.
page now and all the details, and I've changed my header in LinkedIn, and so it's all gradually coming out. So yes, and the Motivated Business Club are all about having a business that's motivated, you,
Fantastic.
your business, and your team. So yeah, we'll be talking a bit more about that in the future. So thanks again today, Fanny. Really interesting, as always. And check out Fanny and myself. You'll see the website details at the end of the show. So until next show, and don't forget to leave some comments. Anything you've got any questions around,
Yeah,
obviously, feel free to leave some comments. And either of us will come back to you if you pick this up on a replay. That'd be great. See you next week.
take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.